he said to them, you couldn't do that. You were wrong. Because the shliach's charge was not to give the woman the get. You weren't extending his shlichus. His charge was to get it to Abba ben Yumi. And you didn't do that. You made a point. You made someone get it to Mrs. Schwartz. You exceeded your authority effectively. Okay, and then there's a back and forth. It was Rav Safra right? So the first version of the story is Rav Safra was wrong. The second version, which we're about to do, Ikeda Amri, Omer Rava, what Rava said was, Kafchinahu Rav Safra, the Tlasur Rabbanan, Simuche Betausa. Rav Safra was wrong to correct, to challenge the Bezdin's authority to appoint the shliach. So Omer Ravashi said, no, Rav Safra was right. Omer Ravashi, my Teusa, what did Rav Safra do wrong? My Omer Le, what? We have to expand the husband's statement. The husband said, take this Jerusalem, find Rav Mumni and give it to him. Okay, so what did the husband mean to say here? What did the husband mean to say over here? I want Abba Varmamnume to get to my wife and not you. So indeed, Rav Safra was probably right. Okay, next, we're going to tell a story now. We're going to be talking about Gittin with conditions and what's the deal. Hahu Gabra, there was a fellow, he sent a get to his wife through an agent. But he told the shliach, Lo tesbe nehilo ad talsayumin. Hold on to the get. When you get to Jerusalem, hold on to the get for 30 days. And then and only then give it to her.
Specify 30 days.
That's what he told him to do.
And if he got there later, then the 30 days begin.
The problem is he got there earlier.
Oh, he got there early.
Okay?
I didn't realize that. I mean, it could be either way too.
Isnis begotal sinyamin. During the 30-day gap between now and his giving it to the woman, circumstances occurred. He broke his leg. Who knows? He was arrested. We don't know what happened, but now it's impossible for him to give the get at the end of the 30 days. Asalakami de Rava. So the agent asked the Shaila by Rava, what do I do now? Omar Rava, Cholot Taimamai. What is the going back? Remember, the Mishnah said, and there was a machlokes whether it was specific or an example, but the Mishnah said that if you're sick, you're allowed to transfer your shlichus to another individual. And one of the opinions there was that this was just an example, because a sickness is an oines, and if there's an oines, you can appoint someone else. And that's
I'm sorry. The case was that he couldn't deliver it
because he couldn't deliver it
after 30 days.
He was now unable. The 30 days to say doesn't matter.
Right.
He's now unable to complete his shlichus. He's in jail. He's in the. It can't be in the hospital because then he'd be a chola.
Right.
But something happened that he cannot complete his shlichus. Okay, so the reason the 30 days is there, I'll do it outside. Okay. If I charge you with acting in 30 days, do you have the power to act or don't you at the 20-day line? Sure, we just had a discussion by Rav Safra that you can only transfer a shlichus if exactly what the shlichus is. So the argument here is going to be at the 20-day point, since the shliach is not yet allowed to give the get to the woman, does he have the power to transfer the shlichus to another individual because he's not yet empowered?
Right.
Or is his shlichus to get it to her in the 30 days is incidental, and he does have the power to get it to her, it's just a little bit restricted, and therefore he can transfer the shlichus. That's the issue. Okay? So, Amar Rava, Chola Mai Time Amai, in the Mishnah, when it says Chola, why is he allowed to transfer it? Mishum Da'anus, because that is a circumstance that precludes him continuing to act. Hainami Anusu. So this guy who has some other rationale for not being able to complete his shlichus, he's in jail. Okay, he can also transfer the shlichus. Amar le. So Rava says to the agent, Maser milach kame didan. Bring the get. Bring your message, meaning bring the get to me and to other fellows on my bezdin. De la baser tlasin human, and we'll wait till the 30-day deadline arrives. Okay. Mashvinan shaliach, and we will point an agent for as with Kayach Bezdin, Yehevi Vle Nahala, to give her the get. Okay. So now the same issue, this is the other side of the story. So he believes that he can transfer the shlichus. Amru le Rabbanan le Rava, other rabbis said to Rava, Ha shliach shelo nitain legarushin hu, until the deadline arrives. This messenger is charged only with getting the get to Jerusalem or to whatever the town is. His shlichus is not yet to give her the get. So how can you transfer the shlichus to another individual? So Amar Lahu, Rava replies, Kaven de labaser talsin yumin matse migores, since as soon as the 30-day date arrives, he does have the power to transfer the get. Now I'm adding, and we're going to wait till then to give it to the new shliach. Okay, but shliach shenisnein legarshin hu, he does have the ultimate charge of getting the get to her, and we can transfer that to another person.
He has to wait till the 30 days to transfer?
Yeah, because the game is take this to Jerusalem, and 30 days from today, or 30 days from when you get there, you give her the get. Now, there's a new problem.
He's not giving him the get, he's going to give the get to someone else at that time.
I'm sorry, you have to speak louder.
Saying, at the end of the 30 days, since he can't deliver it,
That
give it to someone
the
else.
Bezdin appointed a shliach b'kayach Bezdin. There are two ways the shlichus can happen. The husband can create the shliach. There was a discussion in the Gemara if the shliach can create a new shliach, or if the shliach has to go to a bezdin and the new shliach is created b'kayach bezdin. Here, they're covering all the bases. They're doing b'kayach bezdin. The issue was, since he had effectively a two-part shlichus, part number one, get this to Jerusalem. Stay in Jerusalem for several days. I'll pay your hotel bills. And on the 30th day, give this get to my wife. So the issue is it one long shlichus, or is it two separate shlichusim? If during the 30 days he does not have the power to give the wife the get, how can he transfer the obligation to Bezdin? So Rava covered whatever by waiting till the 30-day line to appoint the new shliach. The rabbi still challenged him, and he said, no, I did everything right, because on the 30-day point, Schwartz had the right to give her the get, the obligation to give her the get. So we're taking over. Okay? Now, there's a new problem. Why does a husband divorce his wife? They're not getting along, or he can't afford her, whatever, he has a reason. During the 30, there is another rule, not stipulated here directly, that if Schwartz writes a get to his wife, and then after writing the get, he is intimate with her, the get is invalid. Okay? So we have this relatively long gap, a whole month. Maybe they kiss and make up.
Tear it up.
What?
So tear up the get.
The point is, we don't know if they've kissed and made up. That's a possibility. So we have this new issue. Can you build in a delay like that when the possibility exists of them kissing and making up? They do more than kiss, by the way. Okay.
No.
So,
Wouldn't that negate the get?
yes, it would.
So they must have-
But the shliach is carrying the get. He doesn't know if the guy took a fast train to Jerusalem, stooped his wife, and went back to Tel Aviv.
Okay, so
That's the thing.
That's the question.
that the question is.
Look, we're a page behind. Could you let me do the Gemara? Thank you. V'lecha shema payes. Gemara says, yeah, but do we have to be worried? Maybe they made up. And therefore the get's no good, and therefore the guy can't give it to her anymore. Because we create a new problem. She says, I'm divorced. The husband says, no, we snuck off to a motel together. And now can she remarry or not? That's the issue. Milo Tanan, did we not already learn? Me'achshav, the minute you get your get, I'm creating a new case. The husband's going on a long, dangerous trip. He doesn't want to leave his wife Anaguna. He's going to climb Mount Everest, whatever. He could die. They might be able to recover his body. So his wife would be left Anaguna. Or even if they can, and he's going to Spain, they don't know him there. There's no aid that Mr. Schwartz died. They have an unidentified body. They didn't have DNA in those days. Okay, so the guy does the following. He gives his wife a get, and he says, if I'm not back in a year, this get is effective as of now. But if I do show up, this get never happened. That's the condition, okay? And we learned this case already. Milo tanan im lo bosi mikan ad yud beis chodesh. If I'm not back in 12 months, okay, then this get is effective. Now, the guy dies 10 months in, but they do know who he is. So there's an aid comes. So the question is she a Gerusha or an Almana? Okay, because the year is not yet up when he died. Okay, so is the get effective and she's a Gerusha, she can't marry a Kohen? Or is she an Almana and she can marry a Kohen? There are differences in halacha between the two. Meis b'toch yud beis chodesh hareza get. So since he died at 10 months, we now know with certainty he won't return in 12 months unless his name is Yoshke. And I couldn't resist that, Marty. I apologize. So we say the get worked and she's a Gerusha. Okay, that's what we say. V'chavinan ba, and we ask a shaila about that. V'necha shema payes. Maybe he took a train back to his home. In other words, we had this 10-month gap. Maybe he got back to Jerusalem. He had a long weekend and his business conference. So he came home to Jerusalem and he was intimate with his wife. So the get was ineffective. So she would be an almana. So that's the question. V'yomer Rava bar Rafuna, Rav says, Hachi Omer Abba Mori Mishmei Rav, my father, my master, said over in the name of Rav, but Omer, we're talking about the husband made a special condition. Okay, now what happened where he says publicly, in front of the Adam when he gives her the get, if my wife makes an assertion in front of Bezdin that we had no intimacy after I received the get, even if I come back and challenge it, believe her. So they did not have a quickie after he gave her the get before he got on the caravan. She can make that statement. That's the case. Ne'emanis alai lomer shelo boisi. My wife, if my wife says I didn't have intimacy with her after I gave her the get, she is to believe. Now, this case got more complicated because Lesov Iglo a Milsa, they found out the Arusa Have that she wasn't a Nesua, she was an Arusa. Now, an Eros is not allowed to be intimate with his Arusa. So therefore, there's not even the hint that they might have been intimate. So Amarava im Amru bin Nesua, if she had been already married really fully, Amru ba'arusa, does that mean you say that he could have, maybe we're worried that he snuck in and did a quickie? We don't say that about an arusa. Okay, so now that's the end of that. So Rava was right. Now, Rava says, I want to go back to the last case. Rava, Vada, Koma Boylan, we still have a question. Turn the page. Ki Mashvu Bezdin Shliach, when Shliach A, for one reason or another, is an Ines, whatever it is, he can't complete his Shlichus. So he wants to transfer the Shlichus to Shlichus number 2. Can he do that personally? In other words, Reuven's my Shliach. He says, you know what? My wife needs my help today. I can't do what go to Walgreens and pick up Burr's medicine. He transfers the shlichus to you. And now he gives you the money and you have to go do it. Can he do that privately like that? Or does he have to arrange a bezdin and transfer it in the presence of a bezdin? Because before we had Rava making this change in the presence of a bezdin. Was that just Agavurcha or is that the halacha? Okay, so the fun of Oshaloba fun of does the Bezdin have to be now? The other question, can he give the get to the Bezdin? And then they said in 30 days, we'll make the transfer. Does he have to come back and be there when that happens? That's the question. What?
If he can make it.
Not if. If the halacha is he has to be there and he can't, then there's no new shlichus. If the halacha is he doesn't have to be there, then you're right. Then if he can make it. So Rava asked the question and Rava answered the question himself. Hadar Pashta. He came back and he answered it himself. Ben b'fanav, ben shelo b'fanav, it doesn't matter. The Bezdin can act in his presence with him there or not with him there, because he transferred the obligation to Bezdin, and Bezdin transfers the obligation to the new shliach. So it's an unbroken chain, and he doesn't have to be there. Okay, so that's a chiddush. Okay, and this is in Bavel. So the people in Israel heard they're arguing about this in Bavel, and Shalchu Metam, they sent a message from Israel. Ben b'fanav, ben shelo b'fanav, doesn't matter. You were right, Rava. We agree with that. That's the end of the issue. Okay, new case. We had the guy was saying a year. We're going to this time have a guy saying a month. But what's going to happen, to put it in modern nomenclature, the I-95 is going to be broken, like in Philly. And at the 30-day line, the guy is right on I-95, but he can't get off. The exit ramp is broken. So is that close enough? And it's an ones that he couldn't get back, so they're not divorced. Or is he didn't get it to his house? He said, I'll be home in my house in 30 days, and he didn't get there. He could be on the parking lot. It wouldn't matter. He's not there. That's the question. Hahuda Amar, there's a fellow who said, Elo Asina Atalsin Yamin. If I'm not back in 30 days, Lahavi Gita, this get is a valid get. Asa O Paske Mavra. He came back on the 30th day, but the ferry boat across the Jordan was on the other side of the river. It didn't come to his side, so he could never get home. Okay, Amar Lahu, he shouted to people on the other side of the Jordan in Jerusalem, Chazu, Asoi, Chazu, Asoi. Look, everybody, here I am. Look, everybody, here I am. I don't want to divorce my wife. Amar Shmuel, Lo Shmei Masya. Being a 5 inches from your door, being a half a mile from your door is not called being home. What?
Didn't do anything. Lo masya.
He says, well, that's
Close,
not
but no
called.
cigar.
What?
Close, but no cigar.
Close, but no cigar. Very good. Okay, so that's the end of that case. Now, a new case. The husband really doesn't want to divorce, but he's a nice enough guy that she's so angry with him, he's willing to give her a divorce. But he wants another chance. So he says to her, Hahuda Amar Lahu, he says to the witnesses when he gives her the get, Eloi Paisna Lo Atlasin. Yamin, if we do not make up, literally, if I haven't appeased her, but if we did not make up, then this divorce is effective. So Azul Paisa Velo if Paisa. So he brought her flowers, he took her out to dinner, but none of it worked. She was still TO'd at him. Okay? So is this valid? Is this get valid or not? That's the question. Amar Rav Yosef, mi yahiv la tarkaba didinore velo a paisa. In my that is 25 pounds of gold. Okay, it's a huge amount of money. So so what he's saying is, how far did he go to appease her? Did he give her $1 million and she's not appeased? So we could argue he didn't do enough and the get's no good. Okay, that's what he answers. So, so therefore, since he didn't go as far as he could, the get should be good because he tried. That's the question. Is it enough or is it not enough? Ikadamri, others explained the case differently. Amar Rav Yosef, mi de tarkaba dinore, boy lamesa law. Does he have to go so far as to give her $1 million? Okay, and obviously not. Dinner at whatever that restaurant is called, the fancy one, should be enough. Her paisa, he did the best he could. V'lo ipaisa, she was not appeased, and therefore the divorce is valid. So they look at the same case two ways and come up with two answers. Now, the second version is representative of another machlaikas. Ha commander Amar Yesh Aines Begitten. There is a person who says, when it comes to conditional gittin, I'll be back in 30 days, or we have to make up within 30 days, that you can make the argument, I did the best I could. I was an onus. I was on the other side of the river. The get should not be good. Vaha, and the other version, Commander Amar Ein Eines Begitten. It's a done deal, even if you have a good excuse, even if you were stuck on the other side of the river on your feet with no option to get across. Nevertheless, the get is valid because you did not meet the condition. Next Mishnah. Okay, we're shifting now from getting to loans. So I'll paint you the picture. Reuven is a farmer. Shimon is an Oni, or a Kohen, or a Levi. Shimon needs money. So they make a deal that Reuven will lend money to Shimon. It will be a non-recourse loan, meaning Reuven cannot go take his house or his farm or whatever property he has. But what he can do is keep the Meiser Oni from his farm to repay the debt if the guy's an Oni, keep the Meiser Rishon if he's a Levi, or keep the Truma if he's a Kohen. That's the case, okay? Now what happens, we'll see. Okay. Hamalva Maos es HaKohen v'es HaLevi v'es HaOni. Man lends money to a Kohen, a Levi, or an Oni on the condition Lios Mafrish Aleihen Mechelkoi, that he'll separate what they're entitled to from his produce and keep it to pay the debt. Mafresh Aleihem Becheskes She'en Kayamin. He does not, when he harvests his crop, have to research if the dude is still alive. He has a Cheskes Chaya. We assume he was alive when he borrowed. He's still alive now. Okay? Or he's not worried that the Kohen or the Levi died, because now that Meiser or Truma is not his. Before he had the right to give it to him. Now he's dead, he has to give it to another Kohen. So if he keeps that Truma, it could be he's stealing. What?
I'm agreeing, yeah.
Thank you.
He has the option of giving any Kohen, even though what?
Not if he's dead.
Okay.
So that's why he can keep it. He doesn't have to worry about the guy being dead.
Who says he has to give it specifically to this Kohen? The Torah doesn't.
That was his deal. You have to read the Mishnah, Sid. The Mishnah says, I lend you money and you agree that I can keep the Truma you could take from me and sell it to another Kohen or whatever, and now I have my money back. That was the deal. So now he has to give it to that Kohen and he has to get it back from that Kohen, but he doesn't have to go through the process. He can just keep it.
According to halacha, truma, it belongs to every kind of. I
Never
never
Right.
knew
hear
it.
it.
This is-
I never.
What if you have a favorite? What if you have a favorite Kohen? I can always give my truma to my favorite Kohen.
Sure, he was in California, right?
What?
The guy's in California. He's not there.
So I can put it in my barn and give it to him when he gets home. My minig is to always give it to Mel, not you. I'm allowed to do that. The only problem is if there is the person I had allocated to is not alive anymore, then I have to give it to you, whether I like it or not.
That's my
but-
point. That's what I wanted to
No,
say.
but in this-
But the Mishnah says he doesn't have to worry about. Read the Mishnah. You're driving me crazy.
But in this case, the man doesn't have to give that truma to another Coleman. He can sell it to him. It's his.
Correct.
That's the deal.
And he doesn't have to figure out that you're not alive. He doesn't have to worry about that. He can assume he's still alive. You have a cheskes chai. It's the exact same issue when the guy sent the get from Spain. We had given him a cheskes chai. Okay? Now, the other thing he could be worried about, though, because he also lent money, he's a very generous fellow. He also lent money to a poor man. And he's keeping the shivcha lech, etc., to pay himself back. But what if the guy won the lottery? Now he's not a poor man. It's not his matanos. So it's exactly the same if the Kohen died or if the Oni won the lottery. It's the same case. They're no longer entitled, okay? Oh, ha'asher ha'ani. He also doesn't have to worry that the Oni got rich. Okay, now we introduced death. So now let's die. In other words, the Kohen did die. And he dropped dead in the lender's house. Everybody knows the Kohen is dead. Mesu, if the borrower dies, Sorich litol reshus min hayorsh. So now the right to take the truma was transferred to the heir of the Kohen who owes the money. But because it was a non-recourse loan, the lender can't just take the truma. He has to say to the kids, look, your father owes me money. We made this deal. May I have permission to keep this truma? And the kids, if they're nice, say yes. And if they're rotten kids like mine, they say no. Okay? Tzorich little reshus min hayarshim, he has to get permission. Okay. That's when all this happened out at the guy's house on his farm. But what if the guy says, I need more protection than that? We're going into the ORB Bezdin, and we're going to make this deal in the presence of the Bezdin. Okay? Hilvan bifnei Bezdin, Einu tzorich litol reshus min hayorshin. The Bezdin has the authority to confiscate property from anybody they want. So the Bezdin preemptively confiscates the rights of the Yarship and returns them to the lender. So now even if the Kohen drops dead in his presence, it shouldn't happen. He gets to keep the truma. Okay? Now, we have a problem here. Where there's a rule, you can't, the futures don't count, right? The produce isn't growing, it's just isn't there yet. The truma doesn't exist yet. How can he make a loan using that as the collateral? Amarav Mekore Kahuna Valevi. Also, this is also asks now Sid's question. Maybe some other Kohen would come and take it. Okay, so first answer. Amarav Makare Kahuna Levi. He's buddies with the Kohen and the Levi, and he always gives it to the same fellow. So nobody else would come and make a claim on it. Everybody knows he always gives it to Sid. Okay, second answer. Shmuel Aimer. Lehem al What the farmer does is he gets some third party, and as he's cutting the wheat, he grants that third party the truma for the Kohen. The third party is Zeichel Shalom B'fanav, and he gains it even though the Kohen isn't there. So now there's no question of another Kohen coming and taking it. It's automatically the new Kohen, the first Kohen's property. Third answer. Ula Oimer, Homani, what is the case we're talking about here? Rabbi Yossi, we're paskening here like Rabbi Yossi in this Mishnah. The Amar Asu Es She'ena Zeiche B'Zechusa B'Zuoche. The rabbis say that someone who normally is not Zeiche to get it can be treated as if he is Zeiche to get it. So that means as I take out my truma, I can be Zeiche, or I don't need a third party. It could be just automatic, okay? So why are there three answers? And why isn't anybody made that, yeah, your answer is fine? Each one sticks to his guns. Why? Okay? Kula Karav Lo Omre, Shmuel and Ula do not agree with Rav. They don't like his answer. The Makore Lo Katane, because the Mishnah makes no mention of the fact that the Kohen and Levi were buddies with the farmer. We're adding that. According to him, we don't have the right to them. We don't have the right to add that. Kishmuel Lokahamre, they neither Rav nor Ula agree with Shmuel. Why? Kemezaka eskana akasane, because the case, there's no mention in the Mishnah of getting a third guy to be Zeiche. It says just keep it. It doesn't say you have to go through a process. Ka'ula nami la amre, and they don't agree with Ula either, because the notion that on certain occasions and under certain circumstances, somebody could acquire something even without any kinyan whatsoever. That's a das yachid. That's only Rabbi Yossi. And if we have other options, we do not make a mishnah and a halacha like a das yachid. Okay? Ki yechuda'a lo mukminan. We don't establish the halacha like an individual against others unless under normal circumstances. Next, Tana Rabbanan Hamalva Ma'oses Hakayen V'Yesa Levi V'Yesa Ani. Our case, he gives the money to one of these three or all of these people on the condition Liosh Mafrish Alehen Mechelko, that he'll take back what he's owed based on when it's harvested. Mafresh alehem b'cheskes she'en kayamin. We assume the guy's alive at the time we mafresh, and therefore we can keep it. Upaisek imahem kashar v'hazul. Now, the price of something like grain, if it's a great harvest, the price goes down because there's plenty of grain. and the farmers are competing to sell it. If there's a drought or something, the price shoots up. And this can happen up and down through the growing season. The farmer can stipulate with the buyer, the person who borrows from him, that when I redeem your truma or your miser, I can apply the absolute lowest price that's, and I looked in the Wall Street Journal and I saw the range was $3 to $9. I'm giving you $3. And they can stipulate that up front. And in fact, it's considered built in, that stipulation, okay? Posek imohem b'shar hazol. He can get the absolute pay the absolute lowest price. V'ein bo mishum rivus. And now that it's $9, we're not saying he's getting paid $6 for creating the loan. Okay? So, another stipulation. V'ein shvi'is mishmato. That if this is the 7th year, Shemitah would not cancel the debt. Okay, those are conditions he could make. Ve'im bo lachser ein a lachser. And if we want to cancel this deal and you give me money instead, we can't do that. Okay, now we're going to qualify all these cases. But there's one more condition. Nisyayashu, if the owner of the farm despairs on ever getting his money back. For instance, there's a drought early in the growing season and nothing is growing. So the guy says to himself, you just have to even think, wow, I was a jerk lending him that money. I'm never going to get it back. This is a no recourse loan and my wheat's not growing. I'll never get my money back. Then all of a sudden the weather changes and it grows beautifully. He was miyayish, okay? Nisyashu habaylim ein mafresh aleya. The minute he's miyayish, since it's a non-recourse loan, the loan's over. And he never can get it money back. Okay? Now, lefi she'en mafrishin al ha'avad. Because you can't be mafresh from something that's already gone. That's already lost. Okay. Amar ma. We're going to go through each of these clauses and we're going to explain them. Posek imahim shar hazoil, he's allowed to get the lowest possible price. Pshita, that's obvious. I can stipulate anything I want if I lend Reuven money, I can make any conditions I want. He can take them or leave them. Okay? But what we're trying to teach is, even if it was just Mordechai, I need money. Okay, fine. When I harvest my grain, I'll take it back because he's a Levi, say. Hi, Kamashlan, here's what we're learning. Afal gaf pi shelo pasach. Even though we did not make the stipulation, it's called built in. Kamasha pasach dami, it's as if it's built in. Next case, there's no ribis involved. Ein bo mishum ribis, my timer. Why did the rabbi say it's not ribis? Even if it's not ribis d'oraisa, it could be a vak ribis or ribis d'rabanan. You're not allowed. If I give Reuven to buy a book for me, and it's $19.95. I gave him a $20 bill. There is a din he doesn't have to, but the etzam al din he has to give me my nickel. Can't keep it. My timer. What's the rationale here? Kevin dechi lesle, because there is always the possibility that he'll never harvest and he'll never get paid back. lo yehevle. He will never get the money back. Ki isle nami. So now, even if there is truma and meiser to get it back, ein bo mishum ribis. It's not considered ribis. The third case, shvius, ein shvius mishamatoi. Shvius doesn't cancel the transaction. The lo karina bay lo yagos. When you have a 30-day mortgage, since the principal is not, and there are mortgages where you just pay the interest, but the principal isn't owed until the end. So since the bank may ask you for the money in the middle, that kind of a loan goes across streets. So here too, there is no produce from me to claim from you. There's only produce I can claim is after I harvest it. So therefore, there's no possibility of me pressuring you to get the money back. Therefore, Shvius doesn't cancel the debt. The law, Karina Belo Yigos, you don't violate that. Now, what about the retraction thing? Who's the one can't retract? If you want to change your mind and cancel the transaction, you can't do so. Omer of Papa Loshana Ella Balabayas Kohen. We're only talking about when the farmer wants to cancel the deal and says to the Kohen, I changed my mind, give me my money back. Can't do that. Avil Kohen Balabayas. But if the Kohen says, you know what, I never really needed this money, here's your money back, and I'll come pick up my truma when the crops ripen, that is allowed. It's only the lender who is restricted on changing the deal, but the borrower never is. The Tanan we've learned, Nasan Lomos, if the buyer you go to the cash register, you pay for the object. Then the girl puts it in a bag and gives it to you. So in print, what you've actually done is you've given her money before you've made the kinyan, right? So if the buyer wants it back out of a deal before he makes the kinyan, lo mashach imenu peiros, he didn't yet make a kinyan, he didn't pull it to him, yochel achzer bo, he can retract the deal. Now that's the third. The fourth case. Nishnaisu habaylim, if the owner despairs. Ein mafresh, and he can no longer claim repayment from the payros. Lefisha ein mafarshin al ha'avod, because you can't collect on something that's gone. The loan disappears when you're miyayish. Pshita, that's obvious. Lo, it's not so obvious. Stricha, we have to say it. Why? The akun, supposing the crop started growing, and then there was this drought and it stopped growing. And the farmer says, you know, it's never going to recover. But in fact, it starts raining and it does recover. That could really happen. It does happen. Ma'al, what are you going to say? Akanta milsahi, that the early growth is meaningful and that we know it's going to recover. Therefore, the yiyush is meaningless. No, kamash malon. The minute the guy is miyayesh, even in his mind, he doesn't have to verbalize it. It's done. Okay. Tanya, we have a brisa. It's getting very late. Tanya, we have a brisa. Rabbi Lazar ben Yaakov Aimer Hamalva Maoses Hakayen Diasalevi Bebayas Bebezdin. If you make this transfer of the loan in the presence of Bezdin Umesu, when the guy dies, Mafrish Alehem Becheskis Oiso Hashevet, he can. The owner of the field can act sort of as an agent of the Shevet Leviim and take the stuff back, keep this stuff, and that would be now he can own it. V'es ha'ani bebezdin, if the poor person borrows it in the presence of bezdin, umeis, and then the poor guy dies. Mafrish alav mecheskas aniye Yisrael. The guy can keep the paya, acting on behalf of all the poor Jews that exist. V'rav achi omer becheskas aniye olam. Not just Jews, any poor people in the world have the right, according to him, to claim the leket, right? So my benayu, what's the difference? All the Jews, all the poor people, what's the difference? Ika benayu aniye kusin. What about if it's a kusi? On one hand, he's maybe a little bit Jewish. On the other hand, he's maybe not a little bit Jewish. So if the transaction was with a poor kusi, then you'd have to rely on ravach. Okay? And we'll go a little bit further. V'ha'asher ha'ani, what if the ani wins the lottery? Ein mefarish alav the bar, but this is not a maybe. This is a vadai. He's jumping up and down. I won $10 million in the lottery. Okay? Ein mefarish alav. He no longer has the right to keep that paya because the guy's not poor. He has no claim on it. And the transaction is over. Because it's a non-recourse loan, he can't collect from the oni, even though the oni has all this money. He doesn't owe him anything, okay? V'rabbanan, and what about the rabbis who gave a psak that if you go to a bezdin, you can collect from a dead person or a rich poor man? Okay, ma shana lemisa da'avud takanta. Why did they make it takana that you can collect even though the guy's dead? But they never made it takana you can collect if the poor guy wins the lottery. Misa shchicha. It's normal. Everybody eventually does. Ashiris lo shchicha. Winning the lottery is an outlandishly low percentage, okay? And therefore there's no takana. Amara papa haina da amre inche. That's why people say ha chavarech meis asher. If you hear Schwartz died, you can believe it. As it's asher lo ta asher. If you hear Schwartz got rich all of a sudden, you don't believe that. And we'll continue tomorrow. Now, we'll go as far as we can tomorrow to like 20 of 10. And then I'm going to assume everybody did it on their own on Shabbos to the top of the next stop. So we don't just keep, because we're doing less and less each day. And we're now a half a block behind. So we want to make up the time. Okay, everybody got that? We're going to go as far as we can tomorrow. You're responsible to do it on your own the rest of tomorrow and Shabbos.
Remember, tomorrow's Erev Shabbos.
Well, we don't have anybody doing it on Shabbos. So everybody gets homework anyway.
Oh, no Shabbos?
No shear on Shabbos.
But tomorrow's Erev Shabbos, and you gotta be careful. Okay.
I got it. Thank
You
you
want me
very
to
much.
say it the third time?
Reb Mordechai. Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. Greatly appreciated.
All right, so we'll pick up here tomorrow
Okay.
at this point, and we'll go as far as we can.
Want to ride home? I have to take the car for the next few days. Thank God. I had a little procedure yesterday, and everything went well. Got
Thank
the
God.
doctor today to get his
You were
post-op.
simcha-ing. Why were you away?
Proceduring.
You were proceduring.
Yes, I had a
Were
little
you
procedure.
well